Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys Board Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we have with us returning guest, Wes.
All right.
Welcome back.
Did anyone actually look up the first time Wes was on this thing?
Sure didn't.
I hope not.
Sure did not.
We were talking about...
I know he was on the first
themes
pandemic.
versus... No, not themes. What was it?
He was on the first pandemic for sure.
Yeah.
I know that, but what was the one
Yeah, what did we
did
talk about before
Theme
that?
versus mechanics?
That maybe.
I mean, talking about the first pandemic means there's a second pandemic, right?
Yes. Which will
Spoilers.
be coming out shortly.
Very
Ooh.
shortly.
Oh.
Wes isn't on it, though.
No,
so
it's Andrew.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I remember was from the first time was spoilers.
Yeah,
Yeah, lots and lots of spoilers.
indeed.
Which, guess what? Second one had spoilers, too. Even heavier spoilers.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we're
I
not here
probably
to talk
shouldn't listen to that until I've finished that game.
Yeah, you probably...
Definitely shouldn't. Son of a bitch. So this is episode 45 to be back on track.
It is.
Topic, which means we are 5 episodes away from episode 50, which is when we're going to be, because that's how math works.
You
I
know
see
what?
the look on your face, Zach. That is how math works.
thought
I
you
want
were
to
gonna
doubt you, but the numbers check out, so...
However, what that actually means is episode number 50 is when we are going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary.
I mean, 52 weeks in a year, 50 episodes.
51 episodes because we had a
Because
zero.
episode 0.
And also, we just released a bunch of them at once, so we don't really remember as well when we actually
When
start.
our actual first recording day.
So we'll just do the 50. It's fine.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And 50 is a nice, number. It looks good.
A half
50.
As opposed to what number?
52. It's such a arbitrary number.
51.
I mean, as much as
Certainly
50 is-
better than
Yeah,
51.
51 is an ugly-ass prime.
Yeah. Fuck primes. So anyway,
It's not a prime though.
especially Optimus.
3, because when you add it up, it's
Yeah.
divisible by 3. That lets you know that 3 can be divided into it.
Yay, math.
17. Yep.
Now we know.
Yep.
Now we know.
So 53, that's the next one.
There
And
you
that's
go.
why we
Yeah.
went with 50 and not 51.
Hey, I almost said 49, and I was like, wait, no, that's definitely not prime.
Yes.
48. No, God, I can't figure one out.
Oh boy. How have we managed to last 1 year? How is
Well,
this
we
happening?
haven't so far.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
surprised Adrian hasn't stabbed Zach.
Who's
more.
to say he hasn't? Yeah.
I have it planned for the anniversary.
Yeah.
It's going to be a murder
Ooh.
mystery.
And I'm
episode,
Zach.
but there won't be a mystery.
You've ruined the mystery. I saw you stab him.
I didn't see anything.
You know what
This
that
is
means, Jeff?
radio.
Huh?
You're a witness.
Yeah. Yeah. People know I'm here.
He'll just edit us out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
That's how it works.
I'm Adrian, and this is the solo cast now.
And I've got to go because I have 2 bodies to hide.
Metaphorically speaking.
When episode 50 rolls around and nothing I say actually acknowledges anything you say, you'll know you're in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, we have just recorded a bunch of other dialogue, just in case we're sick or something like that. So.
It's like one of those soundboards.
Yes, exactly. Hi.
In fact, really, this entire podcast has just been me all along. Nobody can prove
Soundboard.
otherwise.
Yeah, because he doesn't actually have friends. So
Oh, wow, we got off track.
You're welcome.
So you haven't even said anything and we're off track.
we started.
You're doing better than Kaiser. Kaiser at least had to speak to get us off track.
It's true.
I mean, we just start off in the wilderness. We have to make it to the track first.
It's a journey.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually blame Zach.
For what?
Everything.
Well, I know.
I mean, yes.
Besides that,
For getting us off track. I was trying to do this awesome little spiel about how we're 5 episodes away from a year. I was going to kind of pump that up. And
Podcasts aren't just built, don't just arrive built. We have to build up the civilization of podcasts from the ground up every episode.
exactly. We don't like to coast on any previous goodwill.
No. We burn it to the ground at
Yep.
the end of every episode. And so we have to rebuild at the beginning of every new.
sure.
It's a process.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's 5 episodes from now will be the year. So this episode, however, episode 45, we're going to review Food Chain Magnate.
Yes, we are.
I'm real excited.
Adrian
I'm
is,
sure you are.
Adrian is very excited.
He's shaking right now.
Yeah, you can't see it, but
It's either is
there's excitement
quivering.
in his eyes.
Ugh, that's-
But
We might just skip directly to the review because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
so excited.
Before we get to all
he needs that
though,
release.
Premature review.
Before that, however, because we won't premature review, we'll save it for the appropriate time in the evening.
We need foreplay first.
Yes. And so
That was much better.
for board
Wesley,
game
thank you.
foreplay. Let's start with you, Zach.
Okay.
First,
What have you been playing?
no, we don't want to talk about playing yet. We want to talk about the weather today.
Yes, the weather sucked today.
Today, we had a metric fuckload of hail.
And rain.
And Kyle from Sounding Board
Yeah.
posted his apartment complex had 145 broken windows.
Including him.
Uh-huh.
He had some broken ones. Or at least one broken one.
I had multiple friends from around the city have entire windshields smashed out, losing their mirrors off the sides of their cars. My car has about a dozen new dents in it from the parking lot alone. Every tree has been murdered by hail.
Yeah. The trees look real bad right now.
It's like every tree just has like a green ring of just leaves around it.
Yeah.
Because everything was getting real green, and now hail has ruined everything.
Yeah, just cut it out with that shit.
yeah.
Like nature said to itself.
We actually had to close the shop like an hour early because it started leaking through the roof so bad, like all over the light fixtures and the machinery. They were like, we better shut down all of this like really high level electricity going to these big machines before we kill somebody.
And meanwhile, I work in Boulder, and it was cloudy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my dad, he's living down in Monument now, and he was like, I kind of got rained on while I was putting up some framing. It's like, yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
No, there was a very concentrated amount of just fuck you. Just fuck
Yes.
this part of Denver and this part of Denver and then down here.
Yep.
Yep.
The Colorado Mills Mall had to shut down for a little bit because the parking lot was flooding and people's cars were getting destroyed.
Yep.
Many disasters were happening around the city today.
In front of my apartment, it looked like it had snowed because it was just white.
Yeah. It's probably the worst hail I've ever seen outside of like tornadic
Let's go with tornadic. That sounds good.
activity in Illinois.
Yeah.
I definitely, on my drive home, drove through several, calling them puddles is anticlimactic. Ponds. It was definitely water deep enough that it was like that level where they're like, don't drive through standing water this deep. And I was like, everybody else is doing it. I'll do it too. And hey, I didn't die. So there's that.
Yeah.
There is that.
Your car could have got stuck.
You sound disappointed.
Could have. But it didn't. None of the water was around any kind of creeks or streams or flowing things. So I wasn't too worried about drowning. Like, yeah, I could have gotten stranded.
Yeah, it was just the storm system overflowing.
Yeah. Wasn't super concerned about it.
Yeah, but
I made it.
Fuck that hail.
Yeah, it was real hard. And it's actually raining a little bit more right now. And it's supposed to be pretty stormy all week. So we'll see.
Hope there's not more hail.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Some of the pictures I saw were, like, I heard some people said, like, close to softball sized for some people. I saw the picture that one of our friends posted was bigger than a golf ball.
Yeah, I
So-
saw a lot of pictures of golf balls, almost baseball size.
He had 3 pieces of hail in his hand, and it completely covered his hand.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't see anything much bigger than a golf ball picture-wise. In person, I saw just under a golf ball. But that's still enough to really fuck your day.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I was really happy that my car was fine.
Yeah.
Especially because I just replaced a window in it.
I was nervous.
Did you keep that tape? You could have just used the tape
know.
again.
My Forerunner here at the house, I was nervous I'd come back because the windshield's been broken for a while, like pretty solidly broken. And I was worried that the hail might have finally done in my entire windshield.
You could have been
but-
like, look, insurance people, look how fucked up this windshield
This
is.
hail
now 'cause
made
of the
my
hail."
windshield.
Yeah. So
We haven't talked about weather in a couple dozen episodes.
That's true.
Now there's
Oh, are there any Broncos when you talk about?
any new Broncos news?
I mean,
the draft was a couple weekends ago.
Okay.
But I don't really follow the draft and don't. I care about the Broncos when the Broncos are playing, and they're not playing right now. So
Oh,
I'll worry about it as the season gets closer.
okay.
Nice try to derail there, Wes. All right,
derail
so
from what?
on to what we've been playing.
Yes.
Zach, what have you been playing?
So one of the games that I played, this was on Friday. I tried out a game that my friend Dave, aka Porkchop, got. It was a Kickstarter game that he ended up seeing. Like, he looked at the art and was like, "Oh, this is cool." So he ended up picking it up when it went to retail. It was called Saltlands. This was it was released last year, or the Kickstarter was last year, and basically it's in a post-apocalyptic Mad Max style thing
Yep.
where it's just a bunch of desert.
I'm familiar with this game.
Yeah, and you're in a bunch of cars, and it can be. We played the cooperative variant.
Okay.
But there's also a semi-cooperative variant. The cooperative one is basically There's 3 different rumors that have colors to them. It's blue, green, and red, and there's certain cards that relate to them. And you basically need a certain amount of those cards in order to... Everybody needs to be on the same tile as the rumor with a certain amount of cards. And you're going around this board, and you're driving in vehicles. You start off with it's just basically a scooter with a sail on it that you just sort of use because it actually has wind in the game.
Okay.
And you basically use that to have you push you along. Mm-hmm. And but you can also get motorized vehicles and stuff. And you're going around these hexes, and you're trying to get either the colored cards or just other cards or guns or stuff. And then you can also attack all I think they're called the Horde. Yeah.
Sounds Mad Max.
I know, right? Yeah. And so basically these guys are going there to kill you. And you have to fight them. And
as is tradition.
Yeah. And so it's basically, you're allowed to move once per turn. So you if you have stuff around you, you can do that, and then you can move and then do other actions. It's like basically you have yourself, and then you can get crew members, and those crew members can do certain actions.
But like land ship kind of things?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, nothing too big, but there's like giant,
war rigs. And
war rigs and
okay.
stuff like that you're trying to fight. And then when you do, you can just take their trucks.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
sounds like a fun game.
It was interesting. We were sort of learning.
Yeah.
A half of us were learning, and so it took longer than I think I would have liked. But I think playing it again, it would go quicker. And also, if you play semi-cooperatively, it's basically whoever you can end the game if you are in one of the rumor tiles and you have so many cards plus cards equal to the amount of people on that same tile as you. Mm-hmm. So if like me and Adrian were on this tile and we had enough cards, and you and Jeff were off that tile, we'd be like, all right, well, we just win without you. And so you can like try and rush onto that tile and make it so we don't win, because then we need another card for you.
Oh, okay.
And so it was interesting. I would play it again. I want to try the semi one, though. I think I would like that one more.
Okay.
Just because cooperative felt like it took too long.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Oh, so it has a co-op and a semi-co-op.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, that was Saltlands. I like the art on it. It was pretty good.
I want to play this game.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like Gorka Morka, which is a Games Workshop game.
Of course.
Where it was orcs like race and fight each other. Mm-hmm. But the coolest part about it was like you didn't really move your trucks. You moved the terrain you moved the terrain around you. So
like
that's
an,
pretty cool.
like an
hill,
arcade game.
Yeah. So like a hill would appear and start moving down the board without you moving the trucks, because you're supposed to be like racing. And so it was a really cool mechanic for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so I've always really liked those kind of games.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Wes, what have you been playing?
I played Orleans,
Orleans,
which was a lot of fun. It was the first time any of us had played that. It's a really interesting worker placement game. Each of the different meeples that you place, there's like 5 different colors of meeple, and each one can only go in a certain place. And depending on which combinations you get, you can buy different workers or different cards. And I think that was a really interesting mechanic. And then you're only allowed to play so many each turn, and you have to draw them randomly out of a bag, which also added a bit of randomness to it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's basically a pool builder, sort of like deck builder.
Okay.
But you have these chips, and you put them in a bag, and you draw from there. So if you need like a blue one, and you happen to draw the 5 or so, and you didn't get any blues, you're like, fuck.
Well, now my strategy is completely different this turn, because I have all these blue ones, and I needed that red one or whatever.
But it's nice, too, because you can put them on your board. So usually, like, if you want to recruit a knight, you have to put 3 different colored ones. So it's like, say it's a white one, a brown one, and a gray one. And if you have all 3 of those there, you get to do that action. But if you only have the white one and the brown one, you can still put those there and be like, next turn I only need the green or the gray one to do that. So you can sometimes plan out future actions if you're like, I need to do this next turn, so I'm going to sort of load that up so it'll be super easy to do next time.
Yeah, it was a really great combination of long-term planning mixed with what can I do right now because of the things that randomly I drew.
Yeah, I think that's what I really like, that when you get a random amount of stuff and like, okay, what can I do with this? And then there are wilds, they're called monks.
Man, I built up so many monks.
You did, yeah.
I had the monk factory going. And then one of the buildings I built was the brewery. So just like every turn, put a monk on the brewery and get 2 gold. It was amazing.
Yeah. And it's nice too because there are...
All I can think of is a robot factory that like it's just pressing monk flesh onto robots.
You're not too far off.
Okay.
It's
like a T800.
Yeah, one of the things nice, you can invest in technology, and that technology is basically, it gives you this gear that you can put on one of those spots. So now instead of needing 3 of those, you only need 2.
which is what I did on my monastery.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I just made it. You only need one person to make a new monk instead of two, and I was just breaking them in.
Yeah, and if you had and for that one, it was a gray one and a black one. If you had a lot of blacks in yours, but not very many grays, you'd be like, well, I'm going to cover the gray, and so I know I have a lot of blacks, so I can just make that one easier. And everything is a limited resource in the game too, which I really liked.
Okay. Not a lot of games do that anymore.
No, it's refreshing when they do that.
And this is an older game too, though, isn't it?
Because I think it's like 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
And then one expansion was out already, and then another one's coming up soon.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Tell me the expansion is New Orleans.
It is not.
No, the expansion, one of the things it added is a cooperative mode, which seems pretty interesting. It's basically you have to build, the trade outposts you get in the first game. So with those, you basically use those as like guard towers, and you have to build them on the entire ring around it. And you have 14 turns to do it or something like that.
I bet you could do that. That doesn't sound terribly hard if you're working together.
I don't know. I've heard good things about it, and I like that they, in an expansion are like, here is a completely new way to play that. I appreciate it when they do things like that versus just here's just new stuff.
Cool.
It was fun. I think you'd like it, Adrian. I don't think you'd love it. I don't know, just because.
Invasion, is that the new one?
No, that was the old one.
Trade and Intrigue?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I do really want to play it. I've heard good things. So.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'll play it again with you.
How much did you like the art?
Nah.
Okay, so at the very least, I think because it was, like 17th century, like it had sort of that.
Yeah, no, the art style like vibe was there.
Yeah, it matched
wasn't,
matched the art style that they had at that time.
It looks very much like an
Medieval. Well, it looks more like
art style.
Yeah, it looks like medieval Europe art versus just UA art, I guess.
Here's some weird dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't blow me away, but I felt it did fit the theme.
Okay.
Yes.
So better than UA art?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It was, I liked it.
It was, yeah.
It was,
yeah.
I don't know how many times I could play it.
Riveting analysis by Zach.
Thank you.
It's very highly rated.
Yes. I do want to try it with the expansion, even without the co-op one, just because I think more stuff would bring the longevity up on it, too.
Okay.
Cool. Hefe, what have you been playing?
Nothing. I played some Clank. I played another game of Clank. Clank's real fun. I like Clank a lot. I played Clank again.
You played it with Pork Chop too, right? And he was immediately like, "I want to buy this."
Yes, and like a lot of people that play that game. It was with 3 new players and I, and we did pretty well. I lost, even though I made it out. Jared died into the depths,
nice.
So he gets a big
That's what I did.
0 on that score. But I think
Good
Pork
old
Chop
goose egg.
ended up winning just because he got a little more time in the dungeon, even though I came out with like the most expensive artifact. Yeah.
We also found a rule that we weren't playing as well.
The first person that gets knocked out starts the tracker of like game end.
Yep.
I don't think that ever happened, but we just happened to notice that in our last game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not just the first person that gets out. The first person that gets knocked out starts the tracker.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Played some Skull. I think, did I win? Did I win Skull?
I think you did.
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, I
but
don't know.
I think you did.
I thought it was the other guy.
Yeah, that guy.
The guy, because we played.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Mike.
Mike. Yeah.
Yes.
Mike.
But besides that, I didn't really play much. I got the new rulebook for the Shadow War Armageddon, which is the successor to Necromunda. Ant and I will be playing that in mass here pretty soon. He's pre-ordering like a huge like cedar, like sort of like Broken Token, but terrain.
Yeah, I
Like,
saw that. It looked
there's
pretty cool.
just like a bunch of like cool terrain that you can do, because the best part about Necromunda is getting that terrain, because it has a lot to do with line of sight and cover and like hiding and like what you can see, how much you can see of the other person, because there's a lot of modifiers in the game. It goes way back to like 2nd edition rules for 40K. So it's a lot more like modifiers on stuff.
That sounds like a lot of fun, yeah.
The one thing I don't like as much is that they have just turned the game into like, hey, all our races from Warhammer 40,000? Use those. Where Necromunda was all of these different characteristic gangs that were in there, like a high-tech gang and like a close combat gang, and then like mutants, and it was all just humans on humans and stuff. But now it's like, there's Tyranids and Necrons and Tau, and then the Imperial Guard and orcs and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't really love that as much, but
They went a little lazy with it.
yeah, I mean, they don't have to make all those old models again. Kind of like what they're doing with Blood Bowl, where they're coming out with all those same old teams, just new again. In this, you can just use your current Warhammer models in it, which is nice. But if you don't have Warhammer models, you're spending $50 on a scout squad, so you can use it in this game.
Damn.
Because the prices are still fucking jacked.
Yeah.
But it has all the progression and war gear and stuff of Necromunda, so that's kind of like a small price to pay to get a new version of it. I think I'll like it a lot. Ant and I were going to play on Saturday, but I decided to go to the hospital with a kidney stone instead.
I would have not done that. I think.
That sounds like a good idea, but
Yeah,
I think it probably wasn't.
I made that active choice to be like, yes, kidney stone time. Time to go to the hospital in excruciating pain.
Yeah, don't make that decision.
Yeah, don't do that.
Try not to hurt yourself.
Drink more water,
Did
everyone.
you hear that, listeners? Don't choose to have kidney stones.
Yes, don't choose that choice.
Wait
a choice.
until your body forces it upon you.
Yeah.
And
The
dick it
more you
is.
know.
So for myself, I played in that same game of Skull that Jeff was talking about. And then I also did get to play at game night on Wednesday, Imhotep, which is an interesting little shit. I don't even know like what kind of game to call that. Basically, every player has their own color stone, and on your turn, you can get stone from the quarry onto your little board that can hold up to 5 pieces at a time, or you can move from your board onto one of a certain number of ships that are available that have a varying amount of spaces. The lowest one is 1 space, and the bigger ones, I think, are 5. 4 or 5 are the high end. So you can place one of your stone from your supply onto one of those ships in one of the available spaces. It doesn't have to be the first space.
Which is an important strategy that I did not realize the first time I played that.
Yes.
After the first turn, I was like, wait, I don't have to put it at the front?
Right. And then the other thing you can do is you could take one of those ships and sail it to one of like 5 spaces on the board where all of the stone that is then on it will come off in the space order and do various things. Like one area you can pull it into, everybody who's got a stone there gets to draw a card from like the face up supply, or like there's a pyramid that you're building on one of them where like depending on where your stone gets placed in that pyramid as you build it, you get a varying amount of points. There's a temple where at the end of each round you get points for every one of yours that is the top is exposed. There's one where you're building pillars that get you points at the end of the game, and there's a like morgue where you're just piling a bunch and you get points for having groups of them together. Like one stone by itself is worth 1 point, but then you get 2 stones together, they're worth 3. You get 3 stones together, it's worth like 6. And it just ramps up from there to where like if you get like 7 stones together, it's like 15 points or something. So it can really
So a bit of set collection in that respect.
kind of yeah.
It's a really interesting strategy of trying to get your stones on the boat in the right order that you can sail it to the place where you get points, the most points.
Yeah, because what I found is like if you place a stone on one of the ships and then it goes around the table and then you place another stone like on that same ship in a position that's going to score really well for you, any one of the next 3 players could be like, you know what? That ship's going to go over to this area where you're not going to get any points with it.
Yep.
Because fuck you, we're not letting that happen.
Oh, I see what you're doing with that boat. I'm just going to put my stone on it, fill it up, sail it over here where it doesn't help you at all, and then fuck you.
Yep. But it's pretty fun. I could see how that could be a game where if you're playing with experienced players, like it could play pretty quick, actually, and probably be decently fun and strategic. We had new players, so there was a lot of hemming and hawing and trying to figure things out, and I felt like there was definitely a little bit in this game of like one person was really good at like blocking, and that person was sitting immediately to my left, so every time I set myself up, they were like, no, fuck you. This is a game I would not want to play with Zach sitting to my left. I would not want that to happen.
I'm disappointed.
Ever.
How long did it take?
It took a little over an hour. They said it'd take about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Took a little over an hour.
Okay.
I think that you could easily get it down in that like 30 to 45 minute range
Yeah,
with
easily.
experienced players.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I'd play it again. But well, that's what we've been playing. Mm-hmm. I think we can move on to some news and Kickstarters and stuff. Yeah?
Indeed. Kickstarters and news, starting with news.
Yes.
First up in news, and my personal favorite, Mondo Tees is teaming up with USAopoly and Project Raygun, which is their fancy creator of games. Like, they'll make crap that's not the usual crap that USAopoly puts out.
Right, yeah.
They partnered with Mondo Tees for a limited edition and regular edition of The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. We have talked about this in the past when it was originally announced. They have released what the board's going to look like and some more art from the game. And announced a limited edition. They will create 1982, the same year the movie came out, versions of that special limited edition that's going to have a special print and some other cool stuff in it.
Looks to be it's going to be 4 to 8 players too.
Yeah, so that's the one downside is that it's a game where, if you don't have 4 regular players, sorry.
It's going to be like a hit and roll thing, like kind of resistance and stuff like that.
You need a
probably.
decent amount of people for that.
Yeah.
But
and those are like 5 to 10.
Yeah, and I think it's going to play with a board and everything, so it'll be a little bit more gamey version of kind of the hidden roll.
Yeah, so you'll have a board of the Outpost from The Thing and stuff like that. Fingers crossed I can get a pre-order in on that limited edition. Hopefully it will appear soon, because Mondo Tees makes some really cool stuff. They've got a lot of cool statues and things like that.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
And
as well.
That deluxe edition will be sold exclusively through mondotees.com.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye on their website if you're wanting to get in on that.
Yeah, the limited edition. Everything else is going to be at your usual retailer and stuff like that.
Correct.
Anywhere that carries USAopoly.
Yep. Also, going along with that in that kind of same news dump, there was a little bit more information about the upcoming new version of Ruhrschifffahrt 1769 to 1890, which is an old 2012 game published by Spielworks that's basically trading on the Ruhr River in Germany. It's about coal shipping up and down the river and stuff.
Okay.
It is getting reprinted for Gen Con 2017 release by Capstone Games. And probably one of the best things they did is they updated the name. So it's no longer Ruhrschifffahrt 1769 to 1890. It's the Ruhr, A Story of Coal Trade, which is still a little bit of a clunky name, but it's way better than Ruhrschifffahrt.
I mean, it's no rural juror, so.
It's a heavy euro, I assume.
I wouldn't say necessarily heavy. It's like it's medium heavy, but definitely.
It's got the heavy name of a heavy euro, is what I'm trying to say.
It has dates in there, so you know that it's heavy then.
Yes,
and it takes place on the river in Germany.
Yeah,
and this new reprint will include the standalone expansion, the Ohio 1811 to 1861.
Oh my god! You are not helping your cause.
So you can come trade in the Americas if you don't want to go trade coal in Germany,
or just go do something else.
But yeah, so I'm pretty interested in that. I've heard really good things about Ruhrschifffahrt, but I have not had a chance to play it.
And they're not doing Kickstarter or anything. It's just going to be a straight release, right?
Yeah,
Reprint?
It's being released at Gen Con this year. So that's going to be... That has jumped to the top of my interested in list at Gen Con.
How heavy or how long is that list right now?
It is currently 1.
Ooh.
Because I have not started to plan for Gen Con.
Okay, so it jumped from 1 to 1?
It jumped from null entry to 1.
It's not really a jump as much as it entered into it.
Entered into existence.
Yes.
Up next, Star Wars Rebellion is getting a new fancy expansion.
Rise of the Empire.
Yes.
AKA Rogue One, the game.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically adding in all of the Rogue One characters into Rebellion with some new mechanics. You're not going to have your straight up Imperial versus Rebels because the Rebellion doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
This is taking place during a different time period.
It's basically like a new way to play it versus
Yes.
just adding on to.
They have mentioned new combat, which could fix the only real problem I had with the old game. Which could make the hopefully new combat makes it just go faster. Really,
I feel like I read somewhere that it didn't really help. It
Okay.
might have made it a little bit worse.
Oh, no.
oh no!
I think I seem to remember something about like you play cards that affect the type of combat you do this tournament or something like that, which
Okay.
might be interesting. But it also
Ground versus space and stuff like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Some new ships and stuff. They're gonna have some interdictors, which are some
Interditors?
Intradictors.
Interdiction.
That I know it's interdiction is that
Yeah.
word, but I would have definitely said interditers.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be wrong.
Yes.
Well, it sounds better than
Interditer?
interdictor.
Do you not ever watch Star Wars Rebels?
No, he
Rebels?
doesn't.
No, I've never watched Rebels.
Jeez.
I know, right?
He never read the books from 1989.
Also,
Well, yeah,
either.
but they don't pronounce things in books.
No. But that's what it's from.
You're reading
No,
the
that
wrong
is what it's
books
from,
then.
yeah.
Every
was-
single thing has a pronunciation guide right next to it.
Yeah.
It's all spelled out in the NATO alphabet.
It's also Lord of the Rings now.
Yes. Yeah.
So some of that legacy canon stuff is now becoming like actual canon through this. And then basically, remember all those new ships from Rogue One? Well, those are in the game now. Some new characters and events and all that kind of stuff are going to be. Some new planets. I wonder if it's going to come with a new board because they don't really show the board in the preview. They just kind of show some new planets and stuff. Maybe there'll be little tiles that you replace old planets with. But I'm looking forward to it. I have not played Star Wars Rebellion as much as I would like to.
I gave you an option to, but then you're like, I'm going to play Blood Bowl instead.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I got to get my Blood Bowl games in.
Yeah.
Still need to do that.
So are you just going to buy this for me or Ant? So
I'm still regularly looking at prices of Star Wars
Okay.
Rebellion to own a third copy in the group. I've even looked at like inserts to be like, man, that insert would be great for that game I don't own.
well, it's a good thing you didn't get set insert because there's an expansion.
Yeah, which is why I don't want to get the Scythe one right now because there's
Right.
another Scythe expansion. So that one should be pretty cool.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then Dead of Winter, Warring Colonies has gotten some great details out there right now.
Yeah, so as the resident Dead of Winter fan in the group, I am pretty excited about. It is going to essentially, Warring Colonies will require
2 copies of the game.
Yeah. To do the main Warring Colonies variant that it adds, it can be added to either set, just add more characters and a few new mechanics, just like Long Night can technically be added to regular Dead of Winter. But where this really will shine is as the Warring Colonies variant, where basically you take 1 copy of Long Night and 1 copy of regular Dead of Winter, and then you play 4 to 11 players and you're competing colonies.
I remember reading a bit about it. I liked, there was like something you could have is called the Lone Wolf.
Yeah, so that's where the 11th player comes in. You can have that odd person out, so you can have,
And they're basically for nobody.
yeah, and they have
they're
their
a lone
own
wolf.
goals
their own objectives.
and objectives and things.
And they can mess with people.
They just need to survive.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I think is kind of cool is so the colonies in this are competing. Like you're directly competing, but every now and then there will be specific crises that come up that are like,
Require cooperation.
yeah, oh shit, now you know that colony you've been kind of fighting with? Well, now you have to work with them to stave off like a massive zombie horde or something.
I saw a tweet from Quinn's,
Yes.
Quentin Smith. It was really great. He goes, who else would like to raise their hand and said that they threw away the Dead of Winter original board when they got the Long Night?
Oh no.
Why would anyone do that?
I don't know why you would do that.
I think from what they said is if you have an option between the two, always play the Longest Night, and it's extra stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah,
so-
so but you still don't need to
throw away
the
this old one.
board.
Well, I mean, if they were never going to play with it,
Well, that's their. Well, see, fortunately, before I bought Long Night, Jeff saw the box for Warring Colonies at Gen Con last
Yes,
year.
I did, and I was like, and I went up to the guy and I was like, "What is that box?" It said Warring Colonies on it. He's like, "Nothing. It's nothing." And he went over to the other guy. He's like, "Get the fucking box down."
So I had an idea that this was coming for
Yeah.
a while, but it is. Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to add tactics cards and bullet tokens and a 12-sided combat dice, which I'm interested to see how that works.
I assume it's
because you're actually competing with on the locations too, because it's a shared location pool too that you guys are
yeah.
both
Yes.
going to.
I can only assume it's a dude on dude combat.
yeah,
People fighting.
people fighting, dude on dude.
Dude on dude. Okay.
Or
yeah.
dog on dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
The dog can fight, right?
Yeah,
Dog versus chimp.
monkey on dog.
Yep.
Ooh.
Thought it was a chimpanzee.
It is a chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee combat.
It's a fucking ape.
But yeah, so that's Warring Colonies. Still no word, though, that I've heard on when that will be available. I'm assuming maybe Gen Con.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gen Con
probably.
probably be a good idea. And it's not a big box. It was pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully plenty of copies.
Yeah, unlike Long Night, this will not be a standalone expansion. You will need one of the other 2 copies to play.
Yes. And then
Speaking of Quins.
there is a Shut Up and Sit Down convention announced.
Right, so they are starting their own convention. It's going to be in Vancouver, which, for those of you who are
Canada.
like, wait, aren't they British? Yes, they are. However, a few members of the Shut Up, Sit Down team have been working in the Vancouver area for a while, and it's also just I think they figured more accessible.
They also said that demographic wise, like the 60% is like in U.S. and Canada, whereas like 30% is in the
Europe.
UK.
Yeah.
So eventually they might want to do something, but if they're going to hold a convention, it'll be easier to do it out here, I think.
Yeah, so Paul and Chris both live in Vancouver, and they say Vancouver's walkable, friendly city, lots of other attractions, yada, yada, yada. Basically, wherever they picked was going to be far away for somebody, so...
Yes.
I've heard great things about Vancouver.
I had to.
But that tickets and stuff are...
It's $150
Yeah.
for a main ticket. And
Which,
then-
I mean, isn't too bad.
but it's also, it has like, I think they said 700 or 800 people total. And so, and then there's also a couple VIP ones too, which are like 450, which offer, I'm assuming, extra things.
I would hope so.
I would hope so too. But I think
Just
they
give
said
us more money.
Yeah, they want to have more people next year.
Yeah.
And so they'll be able to reduce prices if they have more people.
Yeah. So it's going to be October 6th through the 8th. They said there's going to be a huge lending library, lots of tables to play games, and they're going to run 3 mega games because I know those guys are a big fan of mega games. They're the first people that I really heard talk about
Yes,
mega games.
I think those tickets are like $50 each or something like that.
That's pretty standard mega game price.
I think that's around Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, close to It's on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. And it's really close to Essen. And their answer to why is it close to Essen and why on Thanksgiving weekend is logistics worked out that way. Sorry. Which is understandable. I can't imagine the effort going into planning a con
That's where
like
I
that.
heard. That's where I heard about Canadian Thanksgiving. Now I remember.
Those damn Canadians always stealing our holidays.
Yep.
Yeah, new convention from those guys. More board game conventions
Yes.
are always a plus in my book.
Indeed.
I agree. I'm sure it'll be great. Those
Yes.
guys are great. They'll have a lot of live. I don't know if you said they have a lot of their live events too, like their podcasts and stuff like that. So,
Oh, gotcha.
Cool. The hottest of news. A new version of Munchkin is coming out.
God.
Oh,
And it's themed after Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty is seriously showing up goddamn everywhere.
I mean, they've got their branding going, so that's good at least.
yes.
Showing up everywhere except on TV for season 3.
Right? Ugh.
Sometime in the summer
Yeah, so
is what a trailer in Alamo Drafthouse said.
sure.
It did.
Yeah, there's not much news on it. It's just, it's probably going to be like Munchkin, except Rick and Morty.
Right.
There's probably going to be a Meeseeks card.
Yeah, and there'll be gear people, and there'll be, Aberdolf Linkler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Parasites and weird shit.
So if
yeah.
you like Munchkin and you like Rick and Morty, there's a game out there for you.
Give her a shot. On to Kickstarter. First up is Farsight.
Not Farside.
No, it is not Farsight.
As much as you want it to be.
I know, I
Leslie.
really want it to be.
It's got 62K of its 38K goal, 542 backed. It's got 3 weeks left and a $58 pledge from Not Canada.
Correct.
Yes.
So its tagline is actually pretty cool. It's corporate warfare in a dark future. And it says, man and machine fight for dominance in this epic sci-fi strategy game with optional minis, which I know has you kind of excited, Zach, right?
Well, I just like the idea a lot because I know with a lot of these games, the minis drives up the prices a lot. So if you get it with the minis, it's like $100 or something like that. But if you get it without the minis, it's a more reasonable $50 or something like that.
58.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's almost 60 without them. It's almost 120 with them.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they're giving people an option for that because I know people like you, Adrian, are like, fuck minis, blah, blah, blah. And then there are other people who are like, I love minis and I want the minis to be all over me. I want to take a bath full of minis.
That sounds
there
really
are-
painful.
There are an unimaginable amount of people that want every single one of those standees in Gloomhaven
Yeah.
to be minis.
Yeah. No. What? No.
And that's just unreasonable
exactly.
To have minis for that.
God, how much would that game weigh then?
Oh, geez. You'd need another box that size
You
just
would
for
have
the
an
minis.
actual war chest
Yeah.
just to hold it.
Yes.
Yeah. So looking over it, they have a full gameplay video, but I haven't had a chance to watch it.
They have it on Tabletopia as well.
Yeah. So you can try it out.
That's something I
over
like
there.
too. is
That's
it-
happening a lot more recently, and that's a really good idea.
we should actually try and do some of that stuff at some point.
Probably.
Is that tabletop simulator-esque kind of stuff?
basically.
I think that's the free one.
Yeah.
So
I have the not free one.
I have the not free one as well.
Ooh.
Yeah. I got it on a Steam sale, like everyone else.
But so there's some hints that it might have a campaign mode, and that There's an optional diceless combat
I was about to mention that,
variant that's going to be coming out.
That doesn't sound optional to you, does it, Adrian?
No, it does not. And you can build. It says you can build powerful custom armies in minutes, and so they've got some kind of a star system that lets you make sure your armies are evenly matched but unique, and then you can fight it out on this board. So,
And it seems like you don't need the minis in order for it. But also the
Definitely
minis add
don't.
to it.
If you want to pay another $40 for miniatures, that's up to you.
They look
another
great.
$60 for minutes.
They look pretty
it's
good.
one.
It's so it is 116.
Oh, okay.
America. It's 90 pounds
Oh, okay.
for the
Both, basically.
for both the game and the minis. It is 45 pounds or $58 for just the game or just the minis. If you just want to have some cool mech minis, you can just buy those.
Yeah, they look pretty nice.
They actually do look really sweet.
Here, let me show Wesley so he can then go or
Or
There you go. Thank you.
No, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, but that's Farsight. So go check that out if you're interested.
SIGHT.
Yeah.
Not
Far Side, the Gary Larson comic game, which needs to be a thing now because that's all I can ever hear whenever Jeff says Far Side.
Gary Larson wants nothing to do with the internet
Yeah.
and will never, ever put out a board game.
And with my luck, it'll probably just be a Joking Hazard re-theme and it'll be terrible.
Moving on to our next Kickstarter, Terrain Crate. It's a crate of terrain or multiple crates of terrains. This one is wildly funded, $290,000 on a $75,000 goal, 2,400 backers. This one does not have much time left, only about 3 days, and you have a pledge of $75 to $180.
Depending on how many crates you want to get.
Yes.
So you said 290, Jeff. It is 390.
390,
Oh, I
yes.
thought I heard 395.
390,000
Yes.
of its
So
goal.
substantially funded. So essentially, this is like if you do a lot of like D&D style pen and paper RPGs with maps and stuff, and you want to have cool shit to like show what your players are moving through and things like that, you can get these crates.
There are some really, really nice little terrain bits in all of these.
I don't even play D&D, and I want them all.
I need them. I need all of them.
Yeah.
And I have no money to spend on them.
So
There's 3 different ones. There's the Dungeon Crate, the Battlefield Crate,
Oh my
and
gosh,
the
these
Town
are super
Crate.
cool.
yeah. So the dungeon crate's a bunch of like dungeony stuff. There's some wizard study thing, like bookshelves and tables and stuff like that.
Everything you wished Hero Quest was.
Yeah. There's abandoned mines with mine carts and gems and shit like that, and treasure room with a bunch of piles of gold, and then various dungeon debris, barrels and boxes and crates, stuff like that. The battlefield one is like some tents and campsites, horse and cart, and some hedges and fences and things like that, stone walls and stuff. And then the town crate is a bunch of tables, chairs, weapon stands, tavern-esque things, blacksmith in a stable, library, a lot of stuff like that to make some cool settings for your pen and paper RPG campaigns.
And then each of those crates has like a Kickstarter exclusive like bonus, like an extra like dozen little pieces and stuff in there that only come in the Kickstarter version.
Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for some more minis for your D&D,
I
Sweet,
definitely
sweet terrain.
am.
Yeah.
And have $180 for all 3 of them.
because you're just
Well, I don't have
you're
that.
just gonna want to get all 3
Yeah.
of them. Let's just be honest.
They all look really good.
Go max out a credit card.
Yep.
Yep. Nope, that's going to happen.
Now, the one question I have is when is this going to actually be fulfilled by?
May 2018 is what it
Is
says.
what what
Okay.
they say. So
About a
roughly
year.
a year.
Well, knowing my games, even though I'm in 2 right now, they're probably going to both be dead by then anyway. So
Well, so you'll
Very
get them
optimistic
just
about
in
your-
time to start another one, and hopefully by then I'll have quit my shitty 40-hour-a-week job, and I'll be able to play D&D.
As long as your boss doesn't listen
But
to
I'm
this.
never going to be
He's
quitting
not.
my
He wouldn't
45-hour-a-week job. So
Ooh, he's got 5 hours on you.
Yeah, but
yeah, but I still find time for 2 games. so.
because you don't regularly have a podcast. I have to quit my job to
you
make
don't know
time
what
for
I do.
gaming.
I don't do a podcast. I just play all of the D&D.
So, but yeah, so that's Terrain Crates. So go
Ending
check
soon.
that out if you want to throw a bunch of money at them. Yeah, like 3 days as of release date for the episode.
Yep. So
It
if you-
funds on Sunday, May 14th.
Yeah. So if you want it, do it now. Like right now.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Before Sunday, or you're going to be screwed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you can do
Saturday,
it on Sunday.
Saturday.
Yes. Up next on Kickstarters is Card City XL. This one is also well funded, 28K of its 12K goal. It has 787 backers. It has 3 weeks to go and a pledge level of $29.
So Card City XL is the latest game from designer Albin Viard. He also did Tramways, Small City, and a bunch of other really good kind of medium weight to heavyweight Euros. Personally, Tramways, by the way, is my pick for Golden Elephant 2016. That will be announced in like 3 weeks, so we'll see. Anyway.
Did you get to vote?
No.
Okay, then who cares?
That's
I got
cold.
to vote.
That's cold.
It is a train game.
So, Card City XL. The XL portion of the name is kind of a witty little thing he did. So, CCXL is the Roman numeral for 240. And he says that there are 240 different ways to play this game. So it's not like 504, where there's 504 different games.
Most of which were shit.
Possibly. This is one game with 240 different ways to play. So you choose a complexity level, simplified, normal, or advanced. Then you choose a victory condition, residential, commercial, economic, happiness, or industrial. And then you choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 variants. And that gives you 240 different ways to play the same game.
Okay.
Does
so
it? I don't-
different. So he's got the math on there.
3 times 5 times 16. 3 different choices for
16.
complexity. 5 different victory conditions. 1, 2, 3, or 4 variants, but any combination of those 4.
Oh, any combination of the 4.
So-
I was like, that's like 3 times 4 times 4.
Yeah, no,
No,
it's,
so it's
you
3
can have
times
any
5
of the
times
amount
4
of
times
those.
4.
Right.
But he combined that just to
Right.
16.
2 variants.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyhow, so it's for 1 to 4 players and takes 10 to 60 minutes, and everybody's the mayor of a city, and you start with just City Hall, and from there you are going to obtain new cards and use them to build your city. And depending on which of the end goals you have and the complexity level will determine kind of how that all plays out. There are 186 cards in the game and a bunch of coin tiles and cash tiles, and yeah.
Seems like a good deal for, $29.
Yeah, and especially coming from Albin Viard, he's a pretty solid designer. So he's got Rado run-throughs of the gameplay and final thoughts on his Kickstarter page, so you can check that out. Rado, I think, usually does a pretty good job with his final thoughts of summing up a game. And yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah. It looks like it could be pretty cool.
Plus, 10 minutes to an hour puts it firmly in game night territory, and I'm always looking out for good, thinky type games that can still get played at game night.
Yeah.
So
That's it for Kickstarters.
that wraps it up.
No more Kickstarters. Shut it down. Kickstarter.com is
down.
going out of business.
I don't think that's a concern.
Ever.
Anyway, on to the review.
On to the review.
So this week we will be reviewing Food Chain Magnate. This is the 2015 release from designers Jorun and Joris of Splatterspellen, and it was published by Splatterspellen. It plays 2 to 5 players and it takes 2 to 4 hours. Zach, do you have a rules rundown for us?
Yes. Food Chain Magnate has you running a cutthroat restaurant chain, competing for any and all business in the neighborhood. As the CEO, you'll be hiring new employees and deciding how your business will survive. You can acquire cooks to cook burgers and pizza, delivery people to grab drinks, and marketeers to make sure customers want what you're selling. When customers decide what they want to eat, they make no compromises. If they want burgers and cola, and you serve burgers and lemonade, too bad. You can reduce your prices and hire additional waitresses to draw extra customers to you, often at the expense of your competitors. Additionally, there are milestones available to the first people to reach certain goals on a turn, giving you a leg up on your competition. When the reserve bank of money runs out, it becomes the last turn, and then whoever has the most money wins.
Yeah, so thank you, Zach, for that rules breakdown there. It's a pretty solid one.
Thank you.
So real quick to start this off, we'll start with our guest, Wesley. For the first part of our reviews, we like to talk about what were our thoughts kind of heading into this game the first time we played it. Like, what did we know about the game? What were we expecting? Stuff like that.
First I heard about this game was when you guys talked about it several weeks ago. I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot of actual thoughts about what I thought about it. Thematically, it sounded like it was interesting, and that running a food restaurant chain. I almost did the thing. Running a restaurant chain would be a lot of fun. And there was a whole lot more depth to it and than I thought there was going to be. And so it was a pleasant surprise in how it actually played.
Right on. Zach, what were your thoughts going into Food Chain?
I feel like the first time I saw this, like I had heard about it before, but like, Food Chain Magnate or whatever, and it didn't actually go into my brain. I think the first time I saw it was the Shut Up and Sit Down review of it. And it was a pretty good, like they did a pretty good job of making you want to play the game.
Yeah.
And so, and it's really funny too. And so I remember like, that sounds interesting. I'll give it a try. It doesn't seem like it'd be in my wheelhouse, but I'm up for trying new things. And Paul got it first.
Yeah, Paul got his copy first.
Yeah, and so I remember, and then I was like, yeah, I'll try it.
Jeff, your thoughts going in?
I heard it was pretty legendarily heavy, like many components, many pieces, many little. To me, it without actually looking at the game, it reminded me of like the old like mid '80s Starship Troopers war game that has nothing but like thousands of little chits to put on a giant warboard. This is not that game, but that's kind of what made me think of this.
Right.
It was super hard to find, and I think at the time when I first heard of this, it was very much out of print. It has since come back into print, and then gone out, and then back in.
I think they're on they just finished their 5th printing of it?
Yes, which for Splotter is nearly unheard of.
Yeah. Expensive.
Yeah.
MSRP is around $100.
Yeah.
Like it's an expensive game from the start, and then compounded with the fact that there are small print runs that immediately sell out. This game will regularly go for way over MSRP.
Yeah. Like super heavy, and super dense, and lots of pieces is what I have thought of this game before I actually played it.
So I'm in a similar boat as Jeff. I had heard basically, rumors. I feel like we're reviewing the holy grail of board games here. Like nobody had heard any. It was just all rumors. Probably one of the first main areas where I really heard about this game was Heavy Cardboard's review of it. They reviewed this fairly early on. It was their 2015 Heavy Game of the Year. So by the time we got around to actually having a copy around here to play, we'd started the podcast, and I'd been talking to Heavy Cardboard for a while, and I knew how much they loved it, and I'd heard some of their stories about they had the first ever copy in the United States, and somebody spilt coffee all over it. So going into it, like I'd heard enough about it that I knew it was a game that I was probably going to like. Really heavy, dense decision making. Like the gameplay itself wasn't very complicated, but it's all the decisions that you make in that framework that makes this game heavy. And so I was stoked to get to play it. I was really excited to finally get it to the table.
And not coffee resistant.
Not coffee resistant. Actually, surprisingly, I've seen that copy now.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to actively look for like the 2 mild coffee stains.
Okay.
So, sleeved cards. The cards were sleeved.
So that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Anyhow, moving on. Speaking of coffee resiliency, components.
We need a coffee resilience test for every game now. We need to know how much.
Yeah.
We just got to start getting publishers to send us a lot of extra copies.
Yep.
So we can
And
coffee
coffee.
test them. Sure.
Components.
They just send us a lot of Folgers.
Components-wise, there's a lot of them.
Yes.
There are a lot of
There's
components.
a lot of
many
components.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The board pieces, squares, map tiles, etc. Very prototypey, very minimalistic, very not much on there.
They're
yeah.
not prototypey. God, I hate
I think so. For me, it's because it's not.
It's a very plain aesthetic.
It is. I think if it was just like a light green or something, like even a dirt or something, if it wasn't just white
Yeah.
makes it seem like nothing is there until you put something onto it. And so if it would have been just a little bit of color, like I definitely wouldn't want it to be like I've seen some, like I think he even showed me some pictures where it's like lush green grass and all this stuff, and then it's like, yeah, I can understand how that would be. What's the word? It'd start to be obtrusive into the actual gameplay, but just something.
Yeah, the main thing I think they could have done with like a very faint green, I could
Yeah.
actually say would probably be okay. You don't really need the grid lines, or they could be much fainter.
Yeah.
So the grid lines that go across the board, they divide each of the main squares up into a lot of smaller squares, but for the most part, those don't really matter much.
No.
I think it's just a bit too much function over form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I don't know. a thing with some of those heavier
Well,
euros.
I know that it's also like the game is supposed to be sort of reminiscent of like 1950s games
Yes,
too.
like they really like the box art itself, the modern way to old-fashioned gaming and stuff like that. And it's the way it's illustrated on the box cover is very reminiscent of like 50s era Americana, kind of a nostalgia look.
And everything in that game definitely looks like that.
Yes,
But I would have liked the board tiles to be a little better.
and
So moving on from the board tiles, though, all of the wooden pieces are shaped and painted like the products they are.
They're super cool.
So there's burgers, pizza, lemonade, and cola and beer, which they're not really very distinct there. They're just different colors of a similar bottle shape.
And they are all just single color meeples.
it's wooden style basically.
Yeah.
But they're at least shaped. I mean, this is a game where they could have easily, done a bunch of colored cubes.
Yeah.
And that, I think, would have been a major step back
For sure.
component-wise.
Yeah.
Probably would have cut down on the cost a bit.
Probably a little bit.
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, but I
We'll
think
see.
one of the strong suits of this game is how much it really plays into the theme. And if they were just cubes, then it'd be like, well, then what's the point?
Right. Yeah, there's something about like, all right, my burger cook, I cook 3 burgers, hand me 3 burgers. And they're
Right.
brown, burger-shaped wooden
Yes.
pieces.
And the pizzas are wedges and they're orange. And I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be pies.
Yeah, pizza pies.
Could be. The cards are solid quality. You're not doing a lot of shuffling or anything. You're not doing any shuffling.
They take up entirely too much space.
The game, as it comes out of the box, yes, because you're going to have to lay out all of
Yeah.
the
Roles.
all of the potential employees, and all of the
Milestones.
and that takes up a ton of space. Fortunately, there's a couple aftermarket things that work great for that.
Yeah,
so
they're
we'll get to those
almost,
later.
they
almost
actually,
required.
They work so well that it actually just makes me more angry at the game for including all those cards. Because it's such a simple solution that makes it so much easier. Because for the milestones, it's just basically a dry erase board. And so
Yeah.
you can be like, Jeff got this one and nobody else did, so we'll just exit out so I can't get it anymore. Oh, I had this one, so circle, so you can always look on there to figure it out. And then I as soon as I saw that, I was like, why the fuck did they do cards then? They just wasted all that goddamn paper.
Yeah, because now like I'll never use the cards now that I have those. But
Yeah.
well, I mean, I guess this is still fair discussion for components. Like that aftermarket stuff is
And then
Yeah,
damn near
well, the card
mandatory.
accordion for all the actual cards is super great too. And I mean,
Yeah.
like how hard is it to actually, it's like a Dominion style slot thing. I mean,
I get the first and second, maybe even the third printing, not having any of that things. But I think like once Board Game Geek introduced all that stuff, and it feels required for that game, that it should have been
Printed in there.
printed in that game.
Because that's where you can pick it up. You can pick it up on the Board Game Geek marketplace. It's like
16?
less than $20.
Yeah, I think it's like 16 something
And
bucks.
yeah, it's a nice little card accordion that fits in the box lid, so you can organize all the employees standing up, so you can read their names nice and clearly. And then the whiteboard, which replaces all of the milestones, and it reduces the footprint of this game by at least 50%.
Yeah, I'd say 2/3, because 1/3 was the milestones, 1/3 were the cards.
And it's already a game where we played a 5-player game here at my place, and a 5-player game takes up most of my table. If we had to spread out all of the cards,
It wouldn't have worked.
We'd have had to get a separate table in here. Like, luckily, I have other tables I can bring in. We do that with Twilight, but
It's like Twilight Imperium scale
it
level
takes
of
up
table
a
space.
ton of space if
Yeah.
you don't have some kind of a way to manage that.
Yeah.
Paper money.
Paper money is the-
one-sided paper money.
Paper money is the other major negative component-wise that I will happily admit to. It's actually that's the biggest negative that I will readily agree with. It's still paper
I
money.
just don't. At
It's
the very least,
decent paper money.
do two sides.
It is good.
yeah.
It's
Good thick paper money, but it's still paper money.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're printing that many cards, at least just make another deck of cards. That's money. That's not that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been fine. Or now I've played it a couple times over with heavy cardboard, and they use poker chips.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a good option.
Poker
too.
chips are
Poker
fantastic.
chips
I
would
need
be
to get
great,
myself
yeah.
a couple good sets of poker chips for playing games here at the house. I'm not going to drag them to game night, but I'll
The,
keep them around here.
Card backs. I really like the art on the card backs.
The art on the card backs and even on the fronts, like the
Yeah.
little, the cart operators, like a little cart operator. The errand boy is like a little nostalgic 50s era errand boy. Like the artwork on the cards, I think very much fits the theme they were going for, that kind of Americana. And I think it's well done art, and it adds to the game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's for me. It's just I don't really like stuff in that era as much. So seeing I think that's just
Are you a commie?
That's what it
I
kind of
mean-
sounds like to me right now. Zach just shrugged very much
Yeah.
in an unable to deny sort of way.
I'll get McCarthy on the horn.
Okay. The art style is cohesive throughout,
Yeah.
so they did not move away from that at all at any point in this game.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so if you don't like Americana, then yeah, that's going to be a problem for
Yeah,
you.
I did at least like that the little cheat sheet and stuff is like a menu. I like that at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the other
Yeah.
nice thing is there are so many games that don't have good player aids where they're like mandatory and you have to download a copy off BGG and print it yourself. This at least does come with a fantastic player aid. The game would be nearly unplayable without that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how does this guy upgrade into what again? And what level do I have to have this vice president to...
Yeah, the front is a nice breakdown of what happens on each round, step by step. Then you fold it open, and it's the breakdown of all the employees and how they get trained to higher tiers. And the back is a rundown of all of those milestones, which, yeah, you're constantly referencing that player aid when you play.
Yep. And it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's a
Yeah.
nice thin menu.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, it's totally with that theme of
Yep.
50s era restaurant stuff.
And I'm going to cut back on that over and over again. They just totally nailed the theme on this. And that's one of the reasons I love this game.
So, rules and rules explanation.
You've taught this game to a bunch of people, right?
I've taught this game a couple times now, and I think that it teaches pretty simply. There's really not much to it from a rules overhead perspective. You know, like you start off each phase, you pick your corporate structure, which on the first round of the game is just your one CEO card, and that card's ability is train. So everybody picks
Hire.
their cards, or hire, yeah, sorry. Everybody picks their cards, which is the CEO, so that doesn't happen. And then in turn order, you go around and everybody hires one person. And then nothing else happens that round because nothing else is in the game yet. And then the next turn, you make your corporate structure, and now you probably are going to play the card you just hired.
Fingers crossed.
Then you
I'm going to hold off on that one.
and then so now you've got two cards. You still have your CEO, so you can make another hire. And then depending on what your other purchase was, now is when you start to have lots of options. You know, maybe you went card operator and you can go get drinks or whatever. But, you know, so explaining the rules, it's really simple. Just be like, all right, first of all, you can hire. Here's everybody that you can hire. Here's kind of what they do. And that way they have a rough idea of what they can do on their first few turns. And then you can go to the board and be like, all right, here's how there's houses and we're going to place our restaurants and here's how you determine where they're going to go eat. It overall, like, I think having it out in front of you, it's easy enough to explain the rules to somebody in a way that they're going to understand the basics of the game. Where this game gets tricky is the strategy. Like, there's so much depth there. And this is a game, one of my favorite quotes for board gaming comes from, I believe it's Joris, might be Arun, but I think it's Joris, said that for one of his design philosophies is if you can't lose on the first turn of the game, why have the first turn? And I mentioned that with our Clank review last week. This is the opposite end of that spectrum where I don't know if I fully like how much you can lose the first time you play, like your very first move of the game. But, you know, depending on what you do, you're going to either set yourself up for success or set yourself way back.
And I just agree with that sentiment that if you can't lose on the first game, why or the first turn, why have the first turn? I totally disagree with that sentiment. If you start to lose on the first turn and you can't make up your deficit and have a fighting chance, then why am I sitting at the table for 2 hours losing?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Well, luckily in this game, you can make up for that. I've seen people come from way down. Like, people have been way down at the first bank break and come back and win huge in the second half. Like, you know, this is a game where you're going to want to ideally play with somebody who's played before just so that they can kind of show, like, if 5 people sit down who have never played this and they play that first turn, they have no idea any of the strategies, and somebody goes and buys a burger cook for their first round, they're going to be screwed. They're going to make a burger. They're not going to be able to sell it, so they're going to lose it.
But they'll get a freezer.
They'll get the freezer, but then they'll get a burger cook who they can't afford to pay for and will immediately have to fire. And then all they have is a freezer. And they're behind whoever randomly picks the trainer or the recruiting girl. You know, so like having somebody who's at least vaguely aware of some strategies is good. So they could be like, you know, any one of these like 4 are pretty viable starting ones. Any one of these 4 are going to be middling. Any one of these 2 or 3 are don't do that for your first turn. It's definitely not a game that's for everybody, but that's moving on into further stuff. So rules wise, though, there's not a lot of overhead. The rules themselves are pretty simple.
So the only thing I think is the most complex is for determining what houses buy from which restaurants.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the most math heavy part of this, because it's not as straightforward as it could be, because it's based on distance, and then if you have price, if you have your price, what were they called? Price managers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's whoever has the lowest price per item plus the distance from that restaurant.
Yeah.
Which is pretty straightforward.
And then waitresses for
Tiebreakers. But that's the tiebreaker.
Well, I know. I'm just saying. And then for calculating how much you get to is based off of that. And then if you have the milestones that get you extra money, some people might be like, oh, does that extra $5? If someone isn't there to tell them that $5 isn't included into it, I could see someone looking at that, because it says your milestone is your burgers sell for $5 more. Does that mean that
no? It's you earn an extra $5 every time you sell a burger. So you still have to sell it first.
Well, yeah.
It's covered pretty clearly in the rules.
I'm just saying that I could see somebody who misses that part.
Yeah,
they could get that part wrong.
That's fair.
And there were multiple times where we had to calculate how much money people were getting from certain houses.
I think
multiple turns in a row.
Gets the trickiest is when there's like the garden, which doubles the price, but then you have all your discounts.
Exactly.
And it doubles the discounted price, not...
That's what I'm talking. Like, once you start adding a lot of stuff in there, it can get pretty...
Late game, this game gets a little math heavy on what you are doing with selling and your food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bring a calculator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, on to gameplay. So, we're starting to touch on this in the rule stuff. The base mechanics behind it, although they can get a little mathy, are pretty straightforward. It's all of the decisions that really are going to make or break this game for individual people and or groups.
Yeah. So first decision that can lose you the game: where to place your first restaurant.
Yes.
Yes.
Because if you look at the board wrong, you might realize that everybody is closer to every single restaurant than you.
Yep.
In which case, you just don't earn any money.
Yeah.
But
no, I know.
There are ways to get around this.
Yes, there are.
yeah,
But
you can build new neighborhoods and you can place new restaurants.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
But those are both pretty late game strategies, so you put yourself pretty far
things
behind.
first.
You can in 2 turns be placing new
Houses.
new houses.
Yeah, but you lose out on a lot of other things that set you. That's exactly what I did in the last game we played. I was like, oh, I'll just put over here and build straight up to the regional manager or whatever so that I can build a second restaurant. But then I lost out on several turns of hiring people that would have actually been useful for me in the early game. And I set up a long game strategy that was useless because I didn't use an early game strategy to back it up.
Well, you also went for a long game strategy, but put in 100.
Yeah, but I'm also, not good at this game.
Yeah. It was only your second time playing.
Right.
So first things first, placing down your first restaurant, and that's where you can also get far behind in this game.
Yep. And then also, if you are what you were sort of talking about after that is you're choosing you're choosing what to put into the reserve, right?
Yes.
That's after that. And so it's either 100, 200, or 300. That's basically how long you want the game to go.
So the basic way this game plays out is you play until the first bank breaks, which that first bank is $50 per player. And then once that bank is exhausted, you immediately reveal the card that everybody put in, the reserve card that everybody put in. Everybody picks one of those 3, 1, 2, or 300. They put them in. You reveal all of them. You add that much money to the game. And then depending on which one they are, changes how many employees your CEO can manage. Either your base CEO is 3. The 100 cards all drop him to 2. The 200 cards keep him at 3. The 300 cards up him to 4. Whichever one of those appears the most is what your CEO becomes. So if everybody throws in 100s, then your CEOs get less useful and there's a smaller bank versus if everybody threw in 300, then in theory your bank's 3 times as much. The game's going to take...
Yeah, it's a shorter game versus a middle game and versus a longer game.
Yes.
I am not a fan of that, mainly because...
You don't know how long the game's going to be when you sit down.
Yeah,
and play.
if I'm like... Yes, exactly. If I'm like, I could do, 2 hours or something, I'll do, a 100 and everybody else does 300. I'm like...
Well, we got another hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The nice thing in that regard, though, is this game ramps way up.
Very much so.
As the game goes on. So
No, it does, yeah.
I feel like the difference between all 100s and all 300s is going to be 3 turns, maybe 4. At that point, people are starting to make hundreds of dollars a turn.
No, it's true, yes.
Yeah. theoretically, it's a really cool way to do the bank and run the turns sequence.
A dynamic bank.
Yeah,
basically.
it's a really dynamic, interesting way to do that. I don't think it's necessary. I think the designers were like, "Ooh, this is a cool thing," and they put it in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
then,
I guess the other option would be just the first bank breaks and add 200 per player and then play, and then it's just a medium length game. And
then sort of what you're saying again. Another way you can lose is if you're going for that long term strategy and say you don't get a chance to look at those reserves. You put it in a 300. Everybody else puts a 100. Then you're just like, oh, this is going to go a lot quicker than I might not be able to adapt enough in order to get onto it.
Yeah. I mean,
I think what would be better is if there was some way, like a person that you could hire that adds to the reserve bank. So you start with 50 people, or $50.
I would rip that card up so fast, and then.
No, think about it. So like $50 per person in the first bank, so you know how long that's going to take, and then say $200 per person in the second
instead
bank.
of the reserves?
Yeah, instead of the reserves.
Sorry, I thought you were saying in addition to the reserves.
No, instead of. So that you have then $200 per person.
Agent is just going to be like, more
bank.
Cards, more money in there, more money.
Especially because one of my favorite strategies is a long game strategy.
Right, so if you're playing a long game strategy, you hire the people that when you play them allow you to put $20 into the second bank, and so everybody knows you're extending the life of the game because that's the strategy you're taking. Whereas if you choose at the beginning, it's completely opaque to everybody.
But my long-term strategy is built around hiring certain people at certain steps, and if I'm having to now hire somebody else to pump up the time, then that throws that off. So now I'm wasting time bumping up extending every turn I'm doing that, I'm extending the game, but I'm burning a turn. I don't know. I like the way it is now. I like that everybody kind of gets a say. It almost always, I've never seen in a 5-player game, I've seen the lowest I've seen is 800. The highest I've seen is 14, 16. So it's that's
15.
Yeah, 15 would be the highest.
And that wasn't 13. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So 800.
Someone threw in an extra 200 in there.
Right. I put 2 cards in.
Yeah, that sounds an Adrian.
But
thing to do. All 3 cards, please. Boom.
But and so this is one of those things. Everything in this game is somewhat counterable, though. So, you say, oh, I have to wait until the bank breaks to see that. Well, one of the milestones is first person to get $20 gets to look at those cards and see what's coming.
But if you're playing the long game strategy, you're not building up money early enough to hit that, and then you don't know if your long game strategy is going to be worth it.
I was playing a long game strategy. I looked at those cards, saw it was short game, switched, and my most recent game, I came in second. But that was because Paul
just destroyed.
Paul had a great starting position, and then Paul's good at this game. Fucking Paul. Yeah, he was set up really well very early to just be making money almost every turn. Whereas I was competing with Megan, Jeff was trying to do some competing with Megan.
He was competing with Wesley.
Yeah, right. So
Wesley was in the opposite corner.
So you and Jeff and Megan were sitting in one side fighting each other, and then Paul was sitting in the corner being slightly annoyed by me because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to try and compete. And he's like, you're just going to not.
I thought you were talking about points-wise.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's what I was like. It was Wesley and Jeff were competing together, you and Megan, and then Paul.
Yeah.
Basically.
But that's, this was one, and one of the things I always love about this game is I came out of it where I was like, there were some things I could have done better. I should have done this instead of that. Instead of opening this new restaurant, I should have opened it over there, or I should have done something else at the start. This game is all about how you play it. You're not going to get screwed because of a bad dice roll. If you get screwed, it's because you screwed up. And I personally love that in a board game. I want to win and lose based on my play, not some arbitrary bunch of bullshit.
I know. I completely agree with that. It's so punishing.
It is.
There's got to be
game.
Better ways to catch up.
Yeah.
So now after setup,
now we're getting into the first turn.
Yeah. So your first hire is ultra important, as we've mentioned before.
Yes.
There are 4 clear options, and 4 clearly don't do that or you will lose. Don't start hiring burger cooks or pricing managers.
Yeah.
Those are
my
bad
things.
choices.
My things I don't have yet are worth 1 less.
Yeah, the 3 probably best first hires:
Recruiting girl,
trainer,
Trainer.
and errand boy are probably marketing
Maybe
probably the 4.
I mean, yeah, and marketing
those-
is a distant because the marketing milestone is epically useful.
Yeah.
Which we will get into when we talk about marketing.
Yeah. Oh, and milestones too.
Yeah.
Past that, there's a couple other ones that are like Waitress is a mediocre one. It's not going to be a great.
And it's not a good first move.
No. And then there's some that are going to screw you, like Pricing Manager or
Cook.
The Cook.
Or
Yeah.
just getting a management trainee.
Yeah, management trainee first turn is also not a good
to
plan.
play more cards you don't have.
Yeah. So, but past that, like the main strategies kind of go from there, and it's all about chasing those initial milestones. Those milestones burn up real quick. Like
And they're super
especially in a
powerful, too.
5-player game.
yeah, 5-player game, they're gone in 5 or 6 turns.
Like when we played 4-player, I think I got half of the milestones, like almost. And when we played 5 players, I got like 3.
It also depends. I mean, like it can be a game where if the first player goes for one strategy and everybody else follows him, you can end up just bouncing along milestones with everybody getting most of them until somebody deviates. Or on that first turn, on a 5-player game, everybody can go for one of those 4 main strategies, and all of a sudden the milestones are going in a hodgepodge of different directions.
And I don't know if we've mentioned, like, milestones, the first people that get them,
Whoever gets it on one turn
Yeah.
gets them.
and then everyone else has no chance to ever get them ever again.
Which is something
they
we
leave
should
the
talk
game.
about, turn order.
Yeah.
Because that is a mechanic that I really like.
Okay, so basically, the first part of each round is corporate structuring. So, like we mentioned during the kind of the rules overview, you start with just your CEO, and he can initially, in the first phase of the game, operate 3 people beneath him, but you don't have anybody yet, and then he hires someone. So then on your next turn, you're placing your CEO, in theory, the one other card, and from there, as you build more people, you're placing more and more and more. Turn order is determined, and it's a choice. So you get your choice of turn order, and the first choice goes to whoever has the most open slots in their corporate structure. So if you max out your corporate structure,
And it's a big tree of managers and CEO and your executives and stuff like that towards the end.
And then whenever people are tied, it's previous turn order. This is a game where, and it's one of the very few games I can think of that is like this. For a good chunk of this game, you do not want to be first player. You want to be towards the end of the player order, and then about mid-game, it swaps, and all of a sudden now you want to be towards the front because turn order is tiebreaker. It's the final tiebreaker.
Yeah, and you basically, unless you need to get something specific, you want to get back into turn order as much as you can.
It's because it's so important to see what other people are doing and be able to react to that.
Correct.
Because when you're, if you have the recruiting girl, that, or you have the trainer, that if you want to train something, you can see, oh, Wes, I see that you're training into this person. I might want to do that too.
Yeah, I don't want you to get running away with that strategy going that way, so I'll follow you there. Whereas sometimes, like later on, when you get into advertising and things like that a whole lot, you might want to be like, well, I want to make sure my advertiser plays first so I can pick that one specific billboard or mailbox campaign and put it where I want it so the things I want are getting advertised.
Yeah, because those are turn order based. So like the radio campaign, which is the most powerful one, there's a one of those, and so that one always goes
it's
first.
the very first advertising to happen during the advertising phase.
So if you want burgers, you're like, fucking burgers.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I hear about burgers.
Yes.
So the turn order is very dynamic and changes. Like sometimes it changes funnily where it's like, players are lined up 1 through 5 and then the next turn they're 5 through 1. Like just the exact reverse order. But then eventually it does start getting kind of mixed around, and there's one of the major milestones gives you a permanent counts as 2 open spots. So that'll almost always late game give you first choice on turn order, which
Right,
is
because if
pretty
there's
big.
like a tie for how many open spots you have, tiebreaker is turn order. So if you were first player last time, now you are first to choose which order you go, so you swap to the last.
Yeah.
And then the exact reverse happens on the next turn. You're last, and so now you get to pick last, and you end up in first.
Yeah.
And then it also helps. So when you're, especially like you said, towards late game, you're like, how many people do I need? You want to have the least amount of people so you have the most control over your turn order.
Yeah.
And so you only hire, because in the beginning you're just like, I just want everybody. I want to get extra management trainees so I can have even more people. And then at some point you'll just be like, okay, well I just need these 3, and I'm gonna have a bunch of management trainees and vice presidents and stuff just so I can get more open space, so I can be first to get that one thing that you need.
Right. And then so moving on from turn order, we kind of already went over corporate structure, then whoever's
Your first
first player, then they get to run through their entire corporate structure doing all their things. They get to start with hiring, then do training, and then do marketing, and then do like placing new neighborhoods, placing new
Depending on
restaurants, depending on what's in your corporate structure.
Yeah.
And
Marketing is super important because
Super.
these houses don't know that they want to eat until you tell them with that billboard right outside their front door.
It just says obey burgers.
Yes. Like you need to market because whatever you produce, if you don't market, no one's going to come and buy it.
yes. So basically, the first few turns, there's not a lot of like selling going on because one, you're not producing anything yet, and two, you haven't started marketing. So these neighborhoods are just sitting there not doing anything. But then you throw out that marketing, and this is where marketing gets really powerful. Depending on which level of marketing you have, you pick however many turns that thing's going to be active. And every turn during the marketing phase at the end, all of the houses that are affected by that particular type of marketing, whether it's a billboard, a mailbox campaign, an airplane, or a radio ad, they're going to all of a sudden want whatever you're marketing. You know, so if you blast a bunch of burgers across the board, then all of a sudden all these houses want burgers. They won't go anywhere they can't get burgers.
Yep.
And then if they can't meet their demand, the next turn more burgers go out. Well, now they want 2 burgers, and they won't go anywhere where they can't get 2 burgers.
So if you have one burger now, sorry, they're not
don't
just
want
gonna,
one burger.
Yeah, they're not going to let their spouse be hungry.
yeah,
They have to double fist.
Yeah, just shove it right into their face.
Yep.
And then especially if you are the first person to get the marketing milestone, your marketing's eternal. So
which can be a double-edged sword.
it is.
Yes.
Because like you set up your marketing to constantly produce burgers, but then all of a sudden the entire board starts, everybody else puts out a bunch of pizza marketing and starts selling a bunch of pizzas. And all of a sudden you're like, well, shit, those are constantly putting out burgers. I can't change them. Now I'm stuck, with useless marketing.
Yep. Or and if you're marketing for somebody, if you're marketing burgers and someone gets a cookout first, then they're like, oh, thanks for the free marketing.
Yeah.
I would like that money, please.
Or you're stuck making burgers and I can just put a mailbox campaign nearby what you're doing and put up cola or whatever. It's like, well, now there's no cola nearby you. You can't get cola. So I've totally boned your burger campaign and you can't switch it to pizza.
And now you have to train for 3 turns to get a Zeppelin to be able to go far enough to get yourself some cola.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where I end up really loving this game is because, if you find yourself painted into a corner, if you notice like somebody's running away, selling a bunch of pizza and they're making all the money selling pizza, you can try and muscle in on pizza, undercut their prices with pricing managers or something like that. Or all of a sudden market a bunch of lemonade to their pizza houses, and now their pizza houses want lemonade. They can't supply lemonade. Well, they're done selling and you can go sell to other people.
And enjoy your 2 turns of not making any money.
I had several of those turns.
Me too.
Yeah, I've won games where I had turns where I didn't make money.
Lottie fucking.
What's also
It happens sometimes.
What's also great about the marketing is how it's delayed. So especially if you have to go first in a round, so everybody gets to see that you're marketing pizza. So now everybody gets a chance to say, well, then I'm going to hire a pizza chef. Next turn, I'll make some pizzas and I'll be able to sell to those houses because they don't want that pizza till next turn.
Yeah.
Right, because marketing is one of the last things that happens each round is the marketing campaigns go into effect and tell the houses what they want.
And then distance is what really matters. If someone is closer to you, the only way for you to do something about that is to lower your prices so they will come
Massively
to you.
undercut them.
Yeah. I think you were telling me, or you're telling us, Adrian, that you've heard where sometimes people will sell burgers at like $2.
Yeah, I've heard of pricing wars driving the price of goods down to like $2-3.
Base price being 10.
Yeah. And in theory, like the designers had to address the fact that if you drive the price down to negative money, like you can't not sell. And so if you sell for minus $2 and you don't have the $2 to pay to the bank, then you're out of the game. Like you went bankrupt, your stores have closed. And they said there were some rules about like them actually still saying and customers still going to them somehow. Like you lock in your corporate structure, so each turn you're producing certain foods at your restaurants, and they might steal business from other people.
You just lock it down at -2.
but you're gone.
So the game has player elimination. That's what you're saying.
It's incredibly rare, and you have to do it to yourself.
So yes.
But yes, the game does have player elimination.
Great. Just what this game needs.
But Jeff, if you weren't able to eliminate yourself, then I don't know that this is ever going to happen if you couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's true.
So you can end it all.
I can end it anytime.
Yeah, so essentially what we're getting to with all this gameplay talk, like, I mean, we could go through all the different things you do in depth.
No, thank you.
But
Yeah, there are many different corporate people you can hire.
yeah, I think that point's kind of coming across. Like, there's just a lot you can do, and it's going to vary a lot from game to game.
It's what, like, the training thing is like 6 across at the top? Like how many vice presidents and stuff there are, management
I believe
people?
so, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of... And
You
then
can go
like
up five levels, and all of those levels have other things you can train into.
Yep,
And so
that make things more better.
more better.
Yeah, there's like 30 different types
The
of
top
people
one
you
is the
can have
most
or
better.
something.
Yes.
The most best.
Yeah, you get up to the point where, you start off your basic cook can cook like either one burger or one pizza. And then you can eventually get all the way up to where you have a pizza or a burger chef, and whichever one you have will produce 8 of that type of good,
But if you didn't get that freezer, it all goes away at the end of every turn.
Yeah.
And is that one of the ones where it's one off, or
Depends on how many players there are.
okay? Because I know there are some that are
Limited.
they're limited. Like the Guru is like if you're
Yeah, most of the high level, the highest tier
Yes.
employees are piece limited. In a 5-player game, there's 3 of all of them, but each player could only have a max of 1 in their corporate structure. And then it goes down from there to the point at a 2-player game, all of those only have 1, which 2-player games could get real cutthroat. You start snatching up some of those high-level employees when there's only 1 copy, they aren't catching up. But then the game tends to end mercifully quick. Somebody gets to the point where they're going to make $500 a turn, and you're going to make 50, and the game's going to be over in 2 turns.
I imagine there's not a lot of mercy.
there's no mercy in this game.
This game has no mercy, but it can end mercifully fast sometimes if somebody really, really runs away with it.
They'll go for the throat at least. So
I mean, our
it
game,
hurts,
we
but it-
played
yeah.
Sunday, Wesley. We were talking. We're like, oh, I think this game has like 2 or 3 more turns.
No,
Like,
I did not think it had 2 turns.
There's
I
got
was
at
like,
least
I
at
was
least
so
one
done
more
with that
turn,
game.
and then that it ended that turn. Like Paul was planning on it. I think at least 1 more, maybe 2 more. I was thinking there would be 1 more.
No, I was watching him spank me that whole time. Like, there's no way this is going to last more than this turn.
I can't hold out much
And then
longer
he gets
with all this
50%
spanking.
more money at the end of the turn.
Like, I was sitting here watching you, Megan handing him money, like just right in front of me every turn. I'm like, there's no way that you guys keep talking like there's going to be 2 or 3 turns. There's no way he's not breaking that last bank this turn.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's gameplay.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. We'll start with our guest, Wesley. What are your final thoughts?
I really like this game. Really like
That's
it.
what I like to hear.
It's I have a lot of bad things to say about it, about how punishing it is, but it's good in a punishing way. I don't know. It's hard to describe it. It could be less punishing. There could be better catch-up mechanics, but I like that there's a way that you have to know what you're doing. And more importantly, that it's not arbitrary, that it does all fit in its theme. Every single piece of strategy makes sense in the sense that you are running a restaurant. Like marketing, the way that marketing works is a brilliant game mechanic, but that's how marketing works in the real world. Every single way that works is great. I need to play it more and become better at it.
You're hooked.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Zach, would you like to go next?
I just had this feeling, you're like, who do I ask?
Yeah, I wasn't sure which one of you to go to next. So
Okay.
We'll go with you, Zach.
So, when I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to say about this game, I decided to look. I started looking at a lot of reviews of this game, and I noticed that I didn't really see any bad ones. And I was not looking at it as like, is this a game that everybody loves? No. And I saw somebody word it this way, and I thought it worked really well. Was this the people that don't like this game, that wouldn't like this game, look at the game and go, I'm not going to like that game, and don't play it. The people that look at it and go, I'll try it out, or I look like I'm going to enjoy it, they tend to like it. I think this is a game that wears itself on its sleeves. Mm-hmm. And so, do I like this game? No. But do I think it's a bad game? No. It's just totally not in my wheelhouse. It is not what I enjoy playing. It's way too punishing. The fact that you can, like we were talking earlier, Jeff, it's like I've lost and now I have to play for an hour and a half because I'm not going to be able to catch up. Sometimes you can come back from that, but for the most part, it's just I get to watch Paul make all the money and I just sit here. And on the last game that we played, I've played this twice. And I like to play games more than that when we review, but I was, after the second one, first you, Adrian, you said, don't worry, Zach, I'm not, you don't have to play this again. And I was like, I was going to say I'm not playing this game again.
Well, yeah, so the last turn of that second game, like, your corporate structure was your CEO.
Yeah.
And we were like, come on, Zach, don't give up. Like, at least play a thing.
Well,
and you put it out there, and then it affected nothing.
I said, it doesn't matter. And then they're like, don't be a shitty gamer. And I'm like, all right, fine, I play it. I didn't sell anything. And I'm like, see, Adrian, this is why I didn't want to do anything, because I was like, my turn, literally, how this game has progressed, nothing I do on this turn, because it's going to be the last turn of the game, matters.
Yeah, which is my only complaint with this game, and it's a very big complaint, is that it's just so punishing, and once you get behind, it's very hard to catch up.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel. The milestones, I like the idea of them, but I feel like, I don't know, they're too powerful, but I know that they're all like really powerful, and so it's just really annoying when you see someone get certain ones and then they run away with the game with it, whereas the milestones you got didn't help you nearly as much.
So I'm curious.
And I've heard that
would you be willing to play one more game at some point with no milestones? Because that is a variant some people do play.
I think that would make that game a lot better.
I don't know. Maybe I would put that as maybe like dominant species. Put it in that same spot as dominant species. Of, if you ask me right now, Zach, do you want to play? No. But it's like, Zach, do this in a couple days or so. I might be in the mood. Provide alcohol, and then allow me to just pour. If I just get mad, I'm just going to pour the beer all I game.
It's fine. They're nice laminated.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
No.
It stands up to coffee. It's okay. No, but I think it just mainly comes down to, is not the game for me. And as much as I'd wanted to, I'm not going to shit on the game just because it's not a game designed for me. Unlike you. Game not designed for you, and you're like, blah, 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 suck a dick.
I mean, I'll point out
Adrian, you shouldn't say those things about games.
I know, right?
I'll point out,
Jeez.
I'll point out the flaws that I have, the problems I have with it. If you have problems with it.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
But yeah, that's basically how I feel. It's not my game.
Okay.
And so I have no desire to play it in its current form.
So Zach, just one more time, just so we're clear. Is it your type of game? Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I pretty much agree with Zach on almost all points. It's not a bad game, but it's too punishing. You can screw up once, and it's like, well, now I'm totally out of this game. I guess I'll watch other people play this game while I try and fumble around in my small corner. There's too many. I mean, there are so many options that you can totally royally screw over other people with placement and stuff like that it gets so brutally hard to where if you have to play like perfectly this whole game, and if you screw up once, you're out. And there are ways to kind of get back, but you're still not getting first place. And it's not the kind of game I enjoy playing like that, really at all.
I did also want to say one thing that I forgot to say. It has a lot of player interaction, but for whatever reason, for me, it feels like it has a shit ton of indirect player interaction. For me.
I mean,
So I think that's one thing. It's brutal, but not in a way that's like it's not like Jeff is attacking me, or somehow actually it's just
I'm just going to put this radio tower down, and now you're going to make no money for 3 turns.
Yes. Yeah.
Good luck winning.
So yeah, that's all I want to say.
So I love this game. Holy shit. This is my favorite game. Hands down, not even close. I would play this anytime. Provided there's, I have 2 to 4 hours to play. We just knocked out a 5-player game yesterday in 2.5 hours. It plays with people who know the game. It plays pretty quick. Even if that had been a game where it was a high reserve at the second bank, it would have went another couple turns. It wasn't going to go much longer. So provided I have the time, I will always play this game. I absolutely love it. You guys haven't given me too much of a hard time about it in a while, but for a while there at the beginning of the show, when we were starting the podcast and everything, pulling an Adrian, getting really mad and then winning a game, or just getting mad in general when I wasn't doing well. Paul more than doubled my score in the last game, and I never got mad. I was just always like, well, what can I do a little better? How can I keep going? What's my best path forward? And yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten upset playing this game, even when I've been getting blown out, even when I've been falling, because I can always look and say, this is where I messed up. Here's where I can do better next time. And then next time the game plays out a little bit differently. Maybe I do good in that area, but I do bad somewhere else, or maybe somebody else just plays better. And it's like, congratulations, Paul. You played that fantastically. You were the third person to pick a spot, and you were the first person in the first turn, and you managed to play those things really well and do great. You know, I should have went for that spot. I should have went that strategy. Like, maybe next time. Like, you know, I never feel like something out of my control has cost me the game or won me the game. Like, I've never won this game and been like, well, that wasn't really, you know, fair for anybody else. It's like, all right, well, you clearly shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. And I did this really well, you know? So yeah, I should have won in that sense. I think that the punishing nature, I don't mind so much. I think that it can be a little too punishing at the beginning with the fact that, like, there are some ways that if you choose your first spot really bad or you choose your first hire really poorly, it will set you almost completely out of the game. But except for just a handful of situations about that, most of the time, like, you fall behind, you know, look at what whoever is winning is doing and either find a way to disrupt them or do it better. You know, like, there's plenty of ways I've seen playing this that you can get back in it if you make an effort. Like, if you're playing somebody who plays flawlessly, yeah, if they play flawlessly and you make a mistake, you're probably not going to win. But everybody makes mistakes. You know, there were things Paul did, you know, that he looked back and he's like, oh, you know, this turn I hired these two people that ended up being wasted hires. I never used them, you know. And so you got to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes and minimize your own. And I really like that constant puzzle every time I sit down to play, trying to do exactly that, capitalize on their mistakes and minimize my own. I disagree with you, Zach. I think there is a lot of more, like, you can very directly interact with other players. You can very clearly say, oh, you're cleaning house on those two buildings over there. Let me throw some marketing over there to interrupt, or, you know, let me...
Well, in the two games that I played, nobody ever did anything just to fuck over anybody, so...
Wow, so that's happened in at least one of the games I've played. So, but yeah, I could ramble on and on about how much I love this game because holy shit, I love this game. So
I could ramble on about, like, nope.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to touch on what you were saying just a second about because you said it's all up to you whether you win or lose. Is like one of the few problems I have with a couple types of games where when you're playing with a bunch of people and there's no luck or anything like that, it's the best person's going to win. Usually. And like I said, that's just not something for me. So that's why I didn't like, if I play again with Paul, it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure Paul's going to win this one again before we even start. And that's what I thought when we played the last time. And I was like, yeah, okay, well. So for me, it's not as much fun when...
it's chasing that dragon. It's like, I'm going to beat Paul one of these days. Mm-hmm. And not in a two-player game, because I've beaten Paul in a two-player game. I want to beat him in a five-player game where I'm navigating everybody else's shit and still beating Paul.
Huh? Yeah, so that's just all I wanted to touch on.
Fine.
Yeah.
So those are our final thoughts. Holy shit, I love this game. I am almost blinded to all of its flaws. It does have some. Zach and Jeff.
It's a bad sandwich.
Zach will not play this game.
I would probably try it, but I want to try it with not Adrian and not Paul.
Yeah,
and that's how I want to play this game.
That's
again.
fair.
Yeah,
I think this game could be a lot more fun if you aren't playing with people that are like utter veterans of like.
Well, or that spent 2 hours on a drive to the condo reading strategy back and forth to each other.
Fuck you guys.
Like, I think I could have more fun with this game with like less veteran people.
That's fair.
Running me over the whole game. But yeah, still a little too punishing.
Not everybody is a masochist like you.
I don't want to have to go out and read like gameplay strategies on a board game. Like, I want to get the strategy out of the game.
Right, yeah. I want to learn the game by playing it, not have read up on how to play it beforehand.
Well, I mean, you can totally learn it that way.
But no, and that's what I'm doing. I want to play it again to continue to evolve my own strategies.
Unless
you're
playing with people that have done that.
Yeah, and then Jeff, how many times have you played now? 3?
3, yeah.
Adrian, how many times have you played?
5.
That's it?
That's it.
Right,
Okay.
but he's also read all the strategies.
How many times has Paul played?
Paul has probably played 6 or 7.
Okay. All right.
I've played twice 2-player with Paul.
Uh-huh.
I played 5-player with Heavy Cardboard.
Uh-huh.
I played 5-player with you guys, and I've played one other.
I've played twice with you, and I have not played 5-player.
Yeah, so I've probably played 6 times.
Okay.
And we played the 3-player game together.
Yes. Yeah.
Which Paul ran us over.
Yes. No, that's what it was. I played one game with you and one game with Paul.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the reviews. Price and availability. As we mentioned, this game is incredibly limited print runs, and as such gets hard to find. This print run is not currently out. However, it is getting to the point where there are not sales on it anymore. It is currently listed on... It is out on Miniature Market. CSI has 20 plus in stock, but it's going for $110, and it's going for $120 on Amazon. So it's still around. It's definitely going for MSRP and then maybe a little bit more. But I mean, you're going to have a hard time finding this game under $100 for a long time.
I think the lowest I've ever seen it was what, like 80?
Yeah.
Yeah, the copy I got it as a gift, but I got it as a gift because I was like, hey, you were looking for a gift? Here's this game that's normally over $100 for $82.
Yeah.
And the insert we were talking about earlier, that's still widely available on Board Game Geek. Like I said, it's under $20.
And it comes with both of them, right?
Yeah, it comes with
Yeah.
the dry erase boards for the milestones and the accordion for organizing the employees.
And then you can clear
Which are
up space.
basically mandatory. You
It
need
clears
those.
up a ton of space. It's basically mandatory.
Yeah, especially when you get to just throw away all those milestone cards because you don't need them anymore.
No, don't throw things away.
Well, I already did it, so.
I went into your copy and threw all of them away for you. Just
Yeah,
so
when you were
know.
getting Taco Bell, I was just like, and you're gone, and you're gone.
You guys know how I feel about destroying game pieces.
Yes.
Yes, we do. So
Oh, they were pristine. They're just in the trash and pristine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fine then. Yeah.
So, Jeff, we had an email for this episode.
What?
If you would like to email us, it is emails@milehighgameguys.com. This one comes from Patrick. Heard you were going to talk about Food Chain Magnate. Don't you hate how the first turn can kill you in the game?
Yes.
Don't you wish it was more like Clank and you could ease into the game with a round or two of play?
Yes.
No.
And that board, was it printed at Kinko's? Now, I know Clank's expansion doesn't fit very well, but still has some of those nice boards. With love, a Splotter hater. And then he has a reply right after that. This was in jest, a throwback to the Clank episode as well as the MHGG hater being revealed. And really,
Andrew.
Yep. And really, you don't need me on the show again. I don't hate Splotter, but I'm also not a fan. I find them a bit too brutal and unforgiving. I know people like that, so there is a place for them. Patrick.
Did we have any Twitter?
The only Twitter we had was our special guest, Wesley, replying to us earlier and asking if... he replied to you, so I'm having trouble finding it. Am I allowed to ask dumb questions on Twitter? Will you read them on the show? The answer clearly is yes.
Yeah.
And then he did ask, is it a good strategy to advertise to your opponents and sell them beers in your fridge? How sly do you need to be to get away with it? I feel like advertising beers in your fridge to your friends is usually pretty easy. You just say, hey guys, I have beer in my fridge.
I just think that the metagame strategy of selling beers on the board and directly on the table in order to get Paul drunk so that you can exchange or do some corporate espionage or corporate headhunting and just kind of snipe away his employees to your hand.
I'm fine with it. It works for me. Yeah.
I'll play that variant at least once.
Yes.
Yep.
And then we also had one Board Game Geek response to the thread I created. It's from Adrian, this guy right here. So, Zach, I'd like to hear more about why this is the best game ever and why it's so much more better. So, why it's so much better than Clank and Tales of the Arabian Nights. Ellipses. No. Okay.
Glad that we could answer those pressing questions.
Yeah.
So that wraps up all of our Food Chain Magnate coverage. If you have any thoughts on our review of it or our opinions, if you hate it as much as Zach or love it as much as me and want to contradict whoever didn't agree with you, you
or
can email
as
us.
torn as I was.
Or as torn as Wes was. You can email us at...
emails@milehighgameguys.com.
You can also tweet us, MHGameGuys, our Board Game Geek Guild 2731, and all of our Facebook and Instagram stuff, which we'll plug more at the end of the show. Moving on, we didn't have any other regular emails, did we, Jeff?
I don't believe so.
Right on.
And that's emails at milehighgameguys.com.
We didn't get any more responses on the Clank Board Game Geek thread, but I did get just a message from somebody directly.
Okay.
And they were saying, this is into response to Eric's email, saying how he went, he did a rush strategy and lost.
Yeah.
and said it was a bad strategy. Greg here said that he's going to have to disagree. Greg here says that he's going to have to disagree with him because he did rush, grab the first thing he could and got out, and he still won. While everybody else had 4 more turns. So apparently he can win. So Eric just might not have gotten lucky, or
although I
Greg did get lucky.
Eric's other criticism was valid. He did the rush strategy and then sat there and watched everybody else play the game for 4 or 5 more turns.
Yes. No, I agree with that. I was just saying that someone did win while doing it. So
that covers all of the follow-up feedback for Clank and everything. Mm-hmm. Next week, I will be in St. Louis, so I will be pulling what Zach did a few episodes ago, and I will be participating from St. Louis. I'm going to hopefully check out some board game stuff out there, some meetups and things, but that'll all be after the episode. And then we're going to be 2 weeks from now, just under 2 weeks from now, at Geekway to the West.
Is that me?
We being you and me.
You and me, and Zach. And
Yes, and Zach.
And
Yeah.
Zach.
Yes.
And Paul,
And Paul,
should
yep.
hopefully be joining us as long as work doesn't get in the way or something stupid.
Indeed. I won't be there.
No.
Me neither.
You don't have to worry about me. I'll probably...
You were invited, and you just didn't
You
want to
were
go.
invited.
I can't afford any of that.
The $40 ticket?
And the trip and the vacation time.
Yeah.
And
Okay. You just don't have the time for it.
yeah.
Yeah. So if any of you are in the St. Louis area, as we were saying the other day, feel free to get in touch if you want to meet up and play some games.
Indeed.
Yes.
I'll be here.
Unless it's Food Chain, and then you can just
And then I will
shut up.
clearly play that a whole bunch. But all right, and if you want to get a hold of us, Jeff, one more time for posterity's sake, what is our email address?
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
Wait, I missed that. What was it?
Emails at, it's a symbol,
Yeah,
Shift.
not AT.
shift 2,
Wait, hold on. I need to write this
I
down.
think. Shift 2? Shift
Adrian,
Shift
You
two.
got
got a
keyboard right
computer.
for you.
Tell him.
It is well, yes,
Yeah,
shift 2.
Yeah. See? I took typing. Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can also get a hold of us on Twitter. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I'm Zach_MHGG.
And I'm Jeff _MHGG.
And Wes, do you have a Twitter that
Yeah.
you want to plug on the show?
Mine is at Pathetic Lifeform. If you want to read all the great architecture and politics nonsense that I retweet.
And have.
You can also get a hold of us and follow those BGG threads that Zach puts up on our Board Game Geek Guild. That's guild number 2731. We are slowly gaining.
We're in the 20s
Subscribers.
now for members.
What?
Oh boy!
And those
You
threads
have
come
literal
from
tens of listeners.
yes, almost dozens. And those discussions come precisely at Friday to Saturday-ish.
It's very punctual.
Yeah.
You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mile High Game Guys.
See some of our fancy game nights that we always talk about.
Yeah, occasionally remember to post photos of.
Sometimes I'm like, Adrian, take photos. There's like 30,000 people here. Mostly, it's sometimes like 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we will be back next week with a review of the Eric Lang Classic?
I'd call it a modern classic.
Modern classic.
Yeah.
Modern classic Blood Rage.
Dudes on a map.
Yes, dudes on the map.
Lots of dudes.
in a mythic
on a
setting.
map.
Cha-ching.
Who is this, Matago? No, it's Simon.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be recording that next week.
Yep, talking about Kickstarter, the Kickstarter shit that it has and whatnot. So
Indeed. Until then, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I'm still Zach.
And I'm Giordano Jeff.
And thanks for joining us, Wesley.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 I feel like you're giving. I gave that brief breakdown, and then you're like, I feel like you're criticizing it.
No.
No. What?
That was a very good rules rundown.
yes.
Okay.
That we
Yes.
want to talk more about in
Okay.
rules and not right now.
Yes.
That makes
So
more sense.
I'm just going to
Okay.
start this over also.
Thank you.
See,
Like
Wesley?
watching the Masters.
I know, right?
When Ant wasn't here last time, he was just like, now I see that you guys just are better at editing.
he's like,
Yeah, yo, I'm glad that you guys edit more.
you guys are just a train wreck. Like, Adrian's just gotten better at editing.
Yeah, last time I was like, why did you guys keep all that shit in? And now I'm glad that you don't anymore.
Yep.
Nope.